SonicState.com, the Vanu podcast, Sonic Talk even, 387 today. This is our new intro theme logo, which animation by Steve Blacker. Please do check it out. There is a competition to win a whole bunch of stuff if you can compose the new theme tune. Right, I'm going to talk quickly because we're a bit late because we've had a bit of a technical fun and games, but it's going to be quite exciting, I think. So we'll go straight in. Mark Tinley over there, marktinley.co.uk. How are you doing? Sound artist and creative thinker.
I'm very well, thank you. Yeah,
Jolly
very well.
Good. I'm glad to hear it. I'm trying to get through this quickly so that we can get to...
Yeah, I won't say anything.
All right. And we've also got Robbie Bronneman there over at Robot Studios. Oh, he's hidden. Oh, no, he's got his Christmas hat. Oh, that's beautiful, man.
Look at that.
That is awesome.
There we go.
That looks like the sort of thing that you would wear at the school fete when they throw wet sponges at you. But I won't. I won't encourage that sort of thing in a studio. Robbie Bronneman, of course, producer, songwriter, film composer, and studio owner. Right, and we'll go to Rich Hilton, who's over there in the States. Rich, of course, plays keyboards with Chic and is Nile Rodgers' studio guy. So thank you very much for joining us, Rich. 1 2 1 2. Can you hear me? Excellent.
Yep.
And this is where it gets really exciting because we now have, via the marvels of modern technology, Gaz Williams in Bristol, where he's doing a gig with his band, the Rumbelows.
Hello.
Hello, Gaz.
Hey. Hello. Is that vocal level okay?
That's absolutely fine. I don't know how it all came together at the last minute. What are you doing? You better explain what's going on because, frankly, I have no idea.
Okay, so here we are in the Cube Cinema in Bristol. This is a great alternative cinema. It's a really great place. They do gigs and stuff in here as well. We're going to be performing later this evening a live soundtrack to the 60s classic surf film. I think I might have mentioned it on the show before. Yeah. It's called The Endless Summer. And it's a completely original soundtrack that we've written for it. We've toured it around festivals and stuff. But it's kind of a little bit ironic performing Endless Summer just a few days away from like the shortest day of the year. So
yes.
So actually, I think the night is being promoted as Big Wednesday, which is another surfing film, which is just to confuse everybody.
So you're there. So is that your? Introduce your band or whatever you
introduce the band.
Yes.
Yeah. So introducing the band over here on guitar, lead guitar, we've got Andy T, and on the drums we've got James Slippy Chippy Phillips, and on the keyboards we've got Helen Banga Stanley. Banga we call her, Banga, just to clarify that.
Hello.
And myself. Hello. So what we'll do, we'll play one of the tunes from the film. I don't know, and you can see the film playing in the background there as well, I think. So we'll just wait for a cue from the scenes as soon as they start surfing. And hit it!
awesome, Gaz. I can't believe that you actually pulled that off. That is fantastic.
Did it sound all right?
It was fine.
Yeah.
It was fine.
Oh,
Well
great.
done, everybody.
And I'm on
brilliant.
laptop
So-
speakers. It just sounds really good.
How are you?
No.
May I ask you, how are you streaming that? Are you using their Wi-Fi? Or are you going over 4G?
We're going over 4G and
Really?
basically, yeah. And what's happened is I've run a sub mix down from the multi-track system we got here into just a mono send, which is then going into my Apogee Jam, and the whole thing's coming out of an iPad. So
That's pretty awesome, isn't it?
Amazing.
so it's quite a simple.
That's really mad. Yeah.
The actual setup is quite simple, but the problem that we were having earlier, so one of the preamps died. It was a 2-channel preamp, so we lost 2 channels just 10 minutes before meant to be going on air, which has just caused no end of grief. I've been
Well
you
recovered.
can probably tell I've been pulling all my hair out.
That's very well recovered, I have to say. Nice one, Gaz. I don't know what to do next. I suppose we should we? Is the plan now to get on with the show and you contribute?
Yeah,
What do you think?
do you want one more number and then we'll sort of.
Oh, do you need? Well,
present-
what you could do is, yeah. Why the hell not? Why the hell not? While you're here,
Why not? Yeah, because we've got some more stuff to do for the show preparation. And if anyone who's listening to live wants to come along tonight, please do in the sort of the Cube Cinema in Bristol. It's going to be on from about 8 o'clock. So I don't know if are there some tickets left. She left.
Excellent.
There's 6 tickets left apparently.
Wow.
Well, that's not going to work because there are well over 100 people in the chat room.
Woohoo! Okay, well we'll just do one more.
All right, let's have another one.
Big Dipper. So yeah, yes, Big Dipper. So this is another tune from the film. Here we go.
Fantastic. Thank you, band. Thank you, everybody. Say thanks to all your. Are you staying with us, Gaz, or are you going to be getting on with things that you probably should be getting on with, or what's your plan?
I think I'm going to have to get on with things here, actually.
Okay.
So can I just wish everybody a very happy Christmas, and thanks ever so much for all the great comments and lovely support that the chat room and the people who post on YouTube. It's really, I don't know, it's really great, and I feel I've made a lot of new friends, and so happy Christmas to everybody.
Oh, thanks, Gaz. Awesome. Well, we'll see you very soon, no doubt. Thank you very much.
You too, guys.
Wow.
Cheers.
Follow that then.
Amazing.
Right, I suppose.
right?
I suppose now we've got to do like a show where we just talk and stuff.
Let's just talk, right? Yeah.
Rich Hilton. Well, I don't know what to say. Robbie, you're looking good, and you're resplendent even in your in your reindeers. Oh
Yeah.
look, we're still getting the live stream. Look at that. It's all God, it's all going on. That's amazing. I can't believe that happened over 4G and everything. That really does make me think. I wonder. He's waving goodbye. Oh, he's gone. He's gone. Right. Let's do a show. Another kind of show. Right. This was something that I feel a bit knocked sideways there because there's so much energy coming down that little Skype channel, and then we're back to our kind of slightly sedate kind of thing. But we'll do our best to keep up the energy levels. Thanks for hanging in there. If you've been hanging, we did have a little bit of technical difficulties, but we're back now. So let's just take a look at this. This is something that you brought up, Gaz, Robbie even. This is the Phenol Kickstarter campaign that is just pretty... Banana plug patchable analog synthesizer. I wonder if it's got a bit of Buchla-ism there. This is the Kickstarter campaign that's running on Kickstarter. We won't play the whole thing. You can go and check that out. I mean, what I can do, though, however, is show you that the Kickstarter campaign, 154 backers, basically they've reached more than double their goal, and they've still got 30 days to go yet. And Robbie, you brought this up because you were kind of impressed. Have you backed?
No, I'm on the verge of, because I like the idea of it's like it gives you a little bit of that kind of real experimentation that you get with a modular, but in a really nice compact form, and it's got some great features on it, and it looks great. And it looks like it's really nicely built, all that stuff. So
729 Canadian dollars, I believe, at the moment, Kickstart.
Ridiculous, yeah. I thought that, it looks like it's a synth that would take you a little bit outside of just the standard analog form kind of factor.
Yeah.
A bit more experimentation.
Looks pretty interesting.
So, yeah,
and what's cool about this is also they seem to be taking on board they're basically taking on board comments from the people who are backing, and so moving MIDI ports and change envelope controls, and added and they added a MIDI sequencer because they reached 100K, so they said they would add some extra functions to it. So it's a really interesting idea in many ways, because obviously we've also got the notion of this this kind of collaborative affair. I know. Rich, are you a Kickstarter kind of guy? Is this, I mean, it's a chunk of change, but it does look like they're going to make it, and I'm not sure when it's actually going to come out. But I like the look at July. Okay, July 2015.
Well, I don't know if I'm a Kickstarter guy, but I like this product a lot. I thought it was very cool. It's got an interesting look to it because there's a certain amount of it. I wouldn't say that it looks like a toy, because that makes what I'm about to say sound derogatory, and I don't mean it to be derogatory. But when have you ever seen a white-topped synth like that with sort of colored banana plug input? It's got a sort of a Fisher-Price meets Brio, in the best possible sense of the word, kind of look to it, to me. But that said, it sounds fantastic, and I agree with everything Robbie said about how it looks like it's got a lot of cool features that would push you outside of the normal way of approaching a modular synth even. And I thought it looked like a really, really cool product.
Yeah, I'm looking at the picture here. It looks like it's interesting they've gone for banana plugs. It just means a whole new set of leads. But apart from that, I know, Robbie, I don't know how you feel about that. You're going to be investing in some banana plugs then when you've had to pull the trigger on this one.
Yeah, I don't know. Oh, don't tempt me on it. I mean, what I like about the idea of it is that when I go off to do sessions at other places, I don't really want to have to lug the modular around. And I'm going to take the little micro brute and the OP1, but that seems like something that is totally feasible to put in a bag and go around with you, and still give you that creative hands-on thing. So, yeah, yeah. It comes with all the banana plugs with it anyway, doesn't it?
Oh, right, okay.
It comes with a whole set of multicolored banana. It comes with everything you need.
Oh, that sounds pretty good. They're asking in the chat room how much. looks like about $629 US, and I think it's going to be somewhere in the region of 8. This is as I understand it, but we don't know yet. Obviously, final.
I think if you do the Kickstarter, it's going to be you're going to save about 180 quid on it when it finally goes into main production later in the year.
Wow, that's pretty good.
Oh,
That's encouraging, isn't it? That's like 35%.
It's a limited edition signed version. I think they're limited edition signed. The first ones. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Mark, you're looking very thoughtful there. Christmas present?
No, I don't know. I'm just thinking about banana plugs, and I'm thinking the only other place that I really remember seeing them is at school. And because I did the electronics option in the physics O level, and we had lots of things like that with banana plugs that we could plug into things and learn about how waveforms worked and all that good stuff. Oscilloscopes tend to have those on, don't
true.
they? That's
Yeah.
where I've seen them before. It looks really experimental, and it looks really interesting, and it looks like something. Yeah, I would like to have that in my setup somewhere. Actually,
Yes, please. Actually, this is what it's
and
going to look like
it.
now.
I like it that they are taking feedback from people and moving stuff around. That makes a lot of sense to me. And it said somewhere in the write-up that it's compatible with something else. It might be compatible with other Kilpatrick audio stuff, is it? So that you can then patch it into other synths. Does he make other synths?
I'm not sure. I'm just looking.
I read something
Eurorack.
about compatibility, and I thought, okay, so if it's not just sort of a standalone, all on its own thing, and they've thought about how they can connect it out into the real world, other than MIDI, but to like, you could take this and use it as a module in then something that got bigger. That would be brilliant.
Yeah, that sounds nice, doesn't it?
Because you can start here and then just kind of move out into the.
Yeah, the chat room want to know is it hertz volts or volt octave? That's something that I was trying to see. I couldn't see that anywhere, so I'm hoping.
It says that somewhere.
Does it? Okay, just not to me.
There were some amazing YouTube videos of them giving it to a few different artists to try out, and some of the stuff they were getting out of it was like really good. Really, like I said,
It says,
like
it
outside
says
of the
it's. It says it's compatible with other modular systems, but it doesn't say what.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, but that probably means volt per octave, as Ed just said in the chat room.
Yeah, let's hope so.
It would make the most sense for it to be that, wouldn't it?
And it would be great that way too. Yeah, in a small modular rig or even a big modular rig, it'd be very cool.
So presumably for that, you just have to get banana plug to 3.5 mil, right?
Yeah, I'm guessing so. And I really like the idea. It's got that look that it might actually fit in the case of a nice modular Eurorack in the lid. See where I'm going here? See where I'm going here? Yeah.
Well, it says it's 15.8 inches wide, which is just about 19-inch rack width, isn't it? By the time you've got the ears and everything.
Oh,
on.
that's very promising. Yeah, I'm thinking. Yeah, that sounds nice. Maybe they'll send one for review. That'll give me something to do next summer.
I did some rack mounting this week. I decided I was going to rack mount my Mac Mini. So I went out and bought some space technology Velcro, you know, the really strong stuff. And I stuck it all they've got this little black thing on the bottom of them. Yeah, I'll show you actually. It had a little black thing on the bottom of it.
Oh, yeah.
So I stuck Velcro all over this bit.
Yeah.
And then put it on the, stuck it into a rack. And then I thought, I'll just reposition this a bit. And there was a massive clicking, cracking noise.
Uh-oh.
And these two parts are no longer connected.
Oh, dear.
I've gone into this one. I'm drilling holes through the bottom so that I can screw it to the rack. But, yeah.
That Velcro is deadly. We Velcro everything with that super Velcro that you can stick speakers to walls with on tour. Howard bought this little USB hub, and he stuck it to the side of his Phantom. And literally, I said, "What have you done?" And he goes, "I've used super Velcro," and it was so flimsy, this hub, that literally when we prized it off, the whole thing disintegrated.
The only way to get it off is with like one of those big paint scrapers. You have to kind of ease it off with a paint scraper and get in between.
Evil.
Wow.
It's evil stuff.
Wow.
From that point.
Well, that's interesting. You should mention that because this also came in. You know, have you seen? This is the Sonic Technologies X Max Pro server rack mount with all kinds of. So you can rack it up in your.
I nearly bought that.
It looks kind of interesting. I mean, I'm sure it's expensive, but it gives you PCI expansion, as well as port replication and all that sort of stuff. What was interesting, I know this wasn't in the topic. I just thought I'd throw it in there as we were talking about rack mount. So you could, I think there's a close up of it somewhere where you can see.
I looked at it for when I got my portable system, and right. It's a big old beast. You would have to have quite a deep rack.
Okay, yeah.
First of all, let's look at the computer.
Yeah, you probably would, but looks. I don't know how expensive it is. I expect it's going to be.
What's it called?
1,500 quid.
Sorry, what did you say, Rich?
What's it called?
It's called the Sonic Technologies X-Mac Pro server rack mount with Thunderbolt expansion demo. Yeah. That's the video. But yeah, that looks kind of fun. It's making me really, because I'm getting to the point now where I'm rendering out videos. I saw someone put a video. Russ from Pro Tools Expert saying this new Mac Pro really rocks. I've got an 8-minute video with loads of plugins and it's only taken a minute to render, and I'm just sitting there thinking, watching my 8-minute video taking 3/4 of an hour, and I'm thinking, at what point does my flimsy hourly rate start to recoup on that $3,000 computer that I would have to do to get that sort of speed? Yeah, and the rest. Anyway, that's sort of. I've forgotten where that actually started from. Oh yeah, the Phenol. Go and check it out on Kickstarter. I'll put a link in the show notes. I should probably say I've forgotten, because the beginning was so sort of insane. Obviously, Isotope sponsoring the show. We have a winner from last week's competition. We've also, if you hadn't remembered, if you could remember, let me see if I play this. We've got our new intro animation, which is I'm probably going to play at some point if I press the button enough times. Perhaps it won't. Oh, there we go. This is our new theme by Steve Blacker, steveblacker.com. And we've got a competition running, which I've come up with a date. I'm figuring the January the 28th is the deadline. So you've got plenty of time over Christmas to do your... And then I'll judge it sort of probably by the 4th of Feb. So that's the intro, which... you can download. There's links in the show notes, but all you have to do is go to sonicstate.com/live, where you'll be able to see the live stream that's here every Wednesday, but also the last week's show. Plus, there's an entry form where you can download that video and then upload a link to YouTube, and multiple entries. And Isotope, in fact, are going to be giving away their creative bundle, which is worth, let me see, I got it here. It's worth like $500. So that's Break Tweaker, Iris 2, Trash 2, plus expansion Stutter Edit all at once. That's going to be the prize for the competition. So that's a pretty nifty prize from Isotope. But while we're on the subject of prizes and competitions, we also have our weekly sponsorship. Iris, I'll press the ad. There we go. Here we go. And basically, if I press play, everything's very slow today. I don't know why that is. It must be because it's going slow for Christmas. Iris 2, of course, is Isotope's latest update of the Spectral Synth, which was a sample-based synth, comes with 11 gigabytes of sample library. You can get started quickly with hundreds of new patches. You've got selection tools, intuitive spectral selection, flexible new modulation system with over 100 modulatable parameters, sculpt your signature sound using up to 5 LFOs, 5 envelopes, MIDI expression controllers and macro controls, multi-mode filter on the output as well as a spectral on each individual sample. Lots and lots of possibilities there. Visualizations, intelligent zero crossings when you drop your samples in there, but there are so many great waves from some classic synths, a lot of them provided by Dave Spears' fabulous collection. So do check it out. If you really want to, you can download it from isotope.com/iris, where you get a 10-day free demo with a sort of limited set of samples, and you can just go crazy with it, and then you can buy it as well. It's also pretty awesome. Iris 2. There you go. Check it out. But we've also got a competition. Last week we asked you to tweet the hashtag 11 gigs of samples. 11 GB of samples, and we have a winner. The winner is, let me see, from last week's show is M. Phillips with the Twitter handle at FIDED_1. So if you would like to get in touch with me, give us your email address. The Isotope Ferry will then bestow you a full copy of Iris 2. And while we're at it, we've got another competition. So all you have to do is tweet this, basically. You need to have a Twitter account. You tweet the hashtag A World of Sound to @SonicNick and @IsotopeInc. But do add a little bit of extra. There's 140 characters there, so go crazy. Send us a message while you're at it. And the next show will be, I guess, the 4th of January. Well, sometime in January. I forget the date, because next Wednesday is Christmas Eve. The next Wednesday is New Year's Eve. So we won't be doing a show on those days. So what you have to do is tweet that. So I'll just run that up again. Tweet that, hashtag a world of sound at Sonic Nick at Isotope Inc. Right. Let's see. We can get on with another topic. What's next? Yes, Christmas songs. It's Christmas. You can tell because Robbie's got his Christmas hat on. One of many, I might add.
Yeah.
Plenty of hats. I did try and look for the Sonic State Christmas hat, but it wasn't here. Christmas songs really are a hell of a lot of them. And I thought I'd look into this. I mean, obviously, we've got ones that come out every year. But basically, what really interested me about this. Let me see if I can find it. I found this web page, which was biggest earners from Christmas songs revealed. This was last year's, and basically, I guess this is in the UK. So this is what a decent Christmas song could earn you. Number one was £500,000 from Slade's "Merry Christmas Everybody." The Pogues' "Fairy Tale of New York," 386. I guess these are estimates, but I mean, you're talking set for life, really. Even Jonah Louie and his "Stop the Cavalry" gets at 13 grand a year in terms of input. For Stop the Cavalry, I think. Is that the tune? So, Rich, have you ever worked on any Christmas songs? Any of them ever gone? And you've kind of thought, this is it, I'm made for life?
Oh, sure. No, but I do have a story to tell regarding the Christmas marketing thing. A certain major vocal artist here in America had a deal struck once with a certain major retail corporation, international retail corporation chain, whereby that corporation would finance his making of a Christmas CD, which that said retailer would own for the period of the year that it was released, during which time they would be entitled to all revenues up to the recouping of the cost of the making of the thing. And after which time, the ownership reverts completely to the artist into perpetuity. So in other words, the corporation pays for the making of the CD. The CD is sold for that season through their outlets exclusively. And then thereafter, the artist actually retains ownership of the CD. Am I making sense?
Good deal.
It's a very interesting deal.
That is a good idea. Robbie's got the thumbs up there. Thinking of adding that to another contract and put in the filing cabinet.
I don't think anyone should own your music. That's what I think. I think everyone should own their own music eventually.
Well, they're not original songs either. They're Christmas standards. I mean, it could be everything from Jingle Bells to whatever. It doesn't, or chestnuts roasting on an open fire. It could be anything. But the point is that the ownership of the product, not the songs per se, because the songs in most cases are not yours to begin with. You're doing standard Christmas repertoire.
That's interesting. I'm just looking for one other, because Mark, you've done a Christmas single, as is your. Well, you did it. Was it last year you first did this? I'm just trying.
I don't know. I think it was 2 years ago, actually. I've got video and everything, actually, with real actors and the video things and lighting and kind of pays homage to "It's a Wonderful Life." And there's a man in it who doesn't quite look like me, but he could be me, I suppose.
This is it, isn't it? Some Christmas suicides, because it was to draw your people's attention to, a lot of people at Christmas actually get pretty miserable, and it's a time of year which, while there's lots of family happiness and all those other things, there's also a lot of not that as well, right?
Yeah, there is a lot of that, and people don't want to talk about it, and they won't reveal that about themselves until it's too late. And I just kind of went, you know what, let's just talk about that. So, and I wrote a song about it that says that at Christmas, I feel like shit, basically. I mean, actually, I'm doing all right this year. But...
Well, you got the hat on. That's a start.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's I mean, for me, okay, so I'm going to be really honest. And for me, with autism, there's some things about life that make life feel more balanced, and one of them's routines. And if I've got some vague routine in my life, then I feel quite grounded and balanced, and I enjoy life. And then when somebody comes along and stuffs my fridge with all this weird food, and all the timings of everything change, and the children don't go to school, and there's holidays, and just every routine, every sense of anything that keeps me grounded gets shaken up, and then that ends up causing lots of anxiety for me, and then anxiety tends to make me depressed because I kind of think I really shouldn't feel like this, and
Yeah.
you know, and then it all snowballs, and then, you know, if I escape out the other side of New Year's, I've done well. So
Well,
it's
so far
kind
so
of
good.
that. So for other people, it might be, some people have difficulty getting the money together to buy presents for their kids, and they feel that they're obliged to do that, and you know, that can be a problem for people, and they get very kind of depressed about that as well, but won't talk about it. So I want people to talk about it. I want people to just be open and honest and say, actually, you know what, I feel like this. And actually, if you don't talk about an emotion or something that's going on with you, then you tend to try and bottle it up and hide it. And if you're bottling up and hiding it from yourself, then you've got no hope in hell of doing anything about it. If you're honest and open about it and you reveal it, it's there to look at for people to go, okay, I can help you with this, or maybe you can look at doing that to reframe it or whatever.
Yeah.
So it is important to be open about things, I think.
No, well said. I agree with that. I think, Robbie,
Yes.
Christmas songs, ever had a go?
I've not had a go. I have a bit of I come out in a bit of a rash over them from my days when I used to, as a teenager, work in jean shops, and for the sort of 2 months up to Christmas, that was all you were allowed to play in this shop.
Oh yeah.
It was a
Scarred
well-known chain called Cheap Jacks. Do you remember that chain?
No.
Anyway, but yeah, so I the one I particularly hate is the one about a spaceman came travelling by Chris de Burgh.
Oh, I don't know that one. It's a
horrendous Christmas song. Yeah. It's because I probably don't like Chris de Burgh full stop, but regardless of that.
Everybody has. Actually, I've got a funny story about Chris de Burgh. A friend of mine went up for a keyboard player gig of a keyboard and guitar to play with him. And you know, it was all kind of going pretty well, and he got the songs and everything, and he was at the right sort of age to kind of not be out of place with the band, because I think they're kind of generally a more mature band but he's really, really tall, and he couldn't get the gig because he was so much taller than Chris that it just made Chris look smaller than he is, because he's not a tall chap. So he didn't. That's his theory anyway. That's not really a very good story at all, but I thought I'd mention it just because I had a Christopher.
I have a story, but I won't give it on the air.
No, fair enough. Okay, perhaps not. But perhaps if you did have a Christmas hit and those royalties were coming in, you might consider getting a one of the Boomstars filters. Coming. Hold on, I've just got a link that I've got to post up here. Yes, indeed. This is the news that the Boomstars, which are great synthesizers, have announced that they're going to be. This is on Matrix Synth. They are releasing the filters only in Eurorack format. I think this comes out of a collaboration with Pittsburgh Modular, and it looks like they're going to be. We got and there's an amplitude mod. They're going to be 279 a pop, which I think is actually pretty reasonable because they sound fantastic. I must admit, I would like to see the oscillators as well, because they certainly do sound. So, Robbie, you got your modular shopping list starting to come together for the new year, then?
There's only one thing I want to get. It's the Qubit granular oscillator. That's the one I want to get.
That sounds interesting.
Yeah. QUBIT, and it's got like a little it's even got like a USB. You can put your card straight in to get the sample straight into it.
Ooh, that does sound interesting. Oh yeah, I've never really experimented with the granular oscillators, but I like the sound of that.
Oh, it looks great, and that's the only thing. The only thing.
I know, Rich, you haven't got the modular yet, but the weight of evidence must be starting to pile up now that you really do need to get yourself a case and start populating it. Oh, you're muted.
Yes, there have been discussions between me and a certain American modular synth company about the possibility of acquiring one, though my wife, who's downstairs, has no idea about this. Well, it was originally intended for the studio over at Niles, but in any case, haven't actually pulled the trigger on anything like that yet, but I could see it happening because I'm starting to really get interested.
I'm just putting a link up for you, Nick. It's in the chat room.
Okay. Let me see.
Qubit.
Okay, that's dangerous stuff. I'll put that up there.
A certain American synthesizer company who shall remain nameless, but is somewhere at the western end of Pennsylvania.
Okay. I know, Mark. You still haven't, have you? You gonna?
I haven't what?
Got the modular stuff going. I can recommend these.
I haven't. No. I mean, I might have a new job soon. So if I get the new job, then I'll have lots of money coming in, and then I'll think about doing it then. But so instead for Christmas, I think I'm going to buy myself one of those little iConnect MIDI Plus 2 things.
Yeah,
to connect
I can
my
thoroughly
iPad,
recommend that.
my computer.
Very good.
Because I bought one of those little things that goes in, the iRig thing.
Yeah.
That goes in the headphone socket. And I've quickly discovered that if you really crank guitar amps in the iPad, it just causes this weird feedback loop because you've got so much gain across a little tiny 3.5 millimeter jack that it really can't do anything but feedback. And then they've got a circuit in there in Amplitude which sorts that out, but then it totally changes the sound of the guitar. Same with GarageBand, actually. So I need a proper way of getting sound in and out of an iPad if I'm going to use it seriously.
It doesn't go in. Well, you can feed it in because it becomes an input, but you haven't got a physical input. So just to clarify that, but yes.
Oh, no, but you can feed it in from I can send things from my computer into my iPad and then back out, can't I?
Definitely.
Yeah.
I've got an interesting story about that this week because I finally got the studio all finished up and I plumbed in my iConnect MIDI 4 Plus into the studio as my main MIDI thing now. And I put it in my rack because it's nice and rack mountable size. And then I thought, the cable that comes with is 1 meter long. How on earth would that ever go anywhere meaningful? So I spoke to them and they said, yeah, there's no cable longer than 1 meter that works with it. I was like, what are you going to do? I mean, you'd have to have it sitting literally on top of a rack and iPad or something to make that workable. So I scoured around and I eventually found this lightning extender cable.
Okay. Sharp intake of breath.
Yeah, which I thought was like, because a lot of those lightning things are not qualified. And, if you buy cheap ones, they don't work with certain devices. Yeah. And this wasn't cheap, actually. It was 2 meters long, and I got it from Amazon. It was 29 quid for this extender cable.
Oh, well, that's only two. I thought it was going to be three figures.
Way down on what they were before. But
we're talking lightning, remember, not Thunderbolt.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, lightning. Yeah. Oh, yeah, right, okay, yeah.
But anyway, I plugged it in, and it worked brilliantly. Perfect.
Good stuff. Right. I'm glad there was. So there's a happy ending to that story.
There's a happy ending. I really thought the whole thing was going to be totally buggered.
Oh, no, that's a shame.
Yeah, it's all good.
Okay, well, let's move on to the next thing. If you want to get one of those, I don't know when they're actually going to be coming out in production, but I think it's quite soon, and we should see them at NAMM because NAMM is shaping up to be quite an interesting event. We'll have more on that. Let's play this one. This is something that might interest a couple of you listeners. This is the news that Roland have released a new sound pack for the TR-8 7X7, which has the sounds of the 707 727. Oh, yeah. I must admit, I don't actually have much fondness for these sounds, but it's kind of interesting to hear them coming out. That cowbell, awesome. Every song needs one. So this is it's a very distinctive kick drum, isn't it? Oh yeah. Anyway. So it's a paid upgrade. So it's a sound set that allows you to basically pour the new set of sounds in, and it sounds. I haven't had a chance to check it out. I've actually passed it on to someone I know who's got a TR-8, and he's going to bring one up so we can check them out soon. And one thing that he said, what would be really cool is to be able to have all of the available sounds of the TR-8 playable across the MIDI keyboard. So you didn't just load them all into individual slots. You just got access to all of them, which is a good idea. Robbie, what do you think? Is this something that you haven't got a TR-8, but you thought about one, didn't you?
I'm pleased that they are properly carrying on with this and developing the whole thing. I think that puts to bed everyone's worries that they were just going to kind of do that one thing and then it was all going to die off. It does show that no, I think they are. I think they are really running with it. I mean, all it indicates to me is I hope that there's a bigger and better synth coming that can replicate some of the more kind of impressive Roland synths.
Definitely. In fact,
they already did that though, didn't they? I mean, I've got a Varios in my living room, which is
yes, but
virtually no use to man or beast, but it's good for keeping doors open.
But to be fair,
it'll only work on Windows 98.
Yes,
it won't work on XP Service Pack 3. Kills it, and it has a excellent Jupiter 8 stroke Juno.
Yeah, I know that.
Which is really good.
But to be fair, so far this has had an awful lot of extra, a lot more love than that ever did when it came out. In fact, if I just come here, we ran a poll which was, what beatbox would you like to see next? I tried to find a bunch of Roland beatboxes that kind of weren't silly, so CR78 seems to be pipping it at the moment. 606 Dr. Rhythm gets that. The CR8000 gets no love, which I'm really surprised at. I know, Rich, do you think that we're missing any classic Roland drum boxes that would benefit from a bit of pouring into the TR8? Or perhaps not. I can't think of it.
They have 808, 909, and 707.
Yeah, that's kind of it, isn't it? Really.
I'm cool.
CR78.
I'm not that I wouldn't CR78. Not that I would, whatever they've got that's any good. R8, some people are saying, but no, those would do for me. I think that's cool, and I agree with everything Robbie said about. I'm glad that they're moving forward with this and adapting and expanding upon models of original products. Well, yeah, I loved it. I enjoyed watching the video that we had for this product very much.
Who was that? Sorry.
I'm deeply concerned about how long Roland continued to support this for.
Well,
all you have to do is go on their website. Every year they release a list of things which they're no longer going to support, and when you look on that list, it's always full of things that are about 6 years old that cost somebody somewhere $2,000 or $3,000. So they can't just drop support after 6. Well, they do drop support after 6 years, but they shouldn't do that.
No,
they should continue to support things for the lifetime of the product, and the lifetime of the product is really probably. I mean, if you think about Jupiter 8s, have been around for like 40 years. They need to continue to be able to support them, and if they're not going to do that, then they need to release the code to third parties and say, actually, write your own drivers. Here's how it works. Here's here's an SDK for you to play with or whatever. But to just drop support for things. There's so many, and I'm going to say they're really good Roland products. They are really good Roland products out there, which are just you can't use anymore, like the original voice transformer. And the thing that's in a half rack unit, which had the voice transformer built into it, it would only work now with Windows 98 in VMware, but it's a really powerful piece of kit. It's something that does something really good and kind of powerful, unique, and they were kind of first on the scene with a lot of the virtual pedal stuff. And yet, it's a shame.
I don't think Roland have ever. Their strength has never been getting it right with computer integration. That's fair to say, I think.
Well, no, strength has never been. They've never understood how people use their gear, or how to support that. From when I had an S770, I became the keyboard player from Mike and the Mechanics, set up this kind of user group in London actually maybe in England, of all the different people, professional people using S770s, and we all contributed to the guy at Roland and said, basically, we need it to do this. And we said, it needs to be in time when you're using it multi-timbrally. And he basically said, well, why would anyone want to do that? You just record, your first part, and then you record your next part to tape, and so on and so forth. He had no idea of how it was being used in the field, and when he was shown, he was completely confused by it. So,
well, I think to be fair, I don't think we can sort of paint them just yet, because this is early. But what interested me mostly about this was,
if I keep saying this, hopefully they'll realise that it's an important issue.
No, that's fair enough. But one thing that I was thinking, that aside, is if there is going to be a better keyboard along, because the System 1, is a great concept, but in terms of the keyboard, the playability, and perhaps the DSP power, it's not. But what I'm seeing as a potential product is if there's a bigger sort of version, which they then start pouring all of their classics into. So we get all of the synths just start to come out, and you can see this as a vehicle for them to remine their classics, because they've obviously got
that would be awesome.
More resources going into modelling some of their older stuff, and they've taken on board that people like the vintage things. Obviously, they're not making analog stuff, but so far the models I've seen on the System 1 have been pretty good, and that's, to me, quite an interesting idea. I know, Rich, you use Roland pianos. I mean, could you see the attraction of maybe something that had that DSP that you could then buy those models just to put, you know, those sounds and those synthesizers, if they were, you know, good enough, into them as a goer?
Yeah, but I'm much more interested in seeing them replicate things like MKS 70, Jupiter 8, MKS 80, you know, like other synths through their history that were iconic and could be adapted to that format.
Well, that's what I mean.
I'd much rather see them controlling those than romp. Like what I play is basically romplers, you know, with tons of waveforms. So I'm not sure they need to do that again.
No, please not.
No. I don't think this is for those guys even.
Sure.
So I'm more interested in, or if they were to do models even of some of their modular gear in some sort of packaged, pre-conceptualized format that allowed, it almost worked like Ace by Yuhi or something, where there is some sort of a signal path to begin with, but you can pretty much do anything you want with it. You know, sort of like, so if they did say a soft System 800 where you could operate it more or less like Ace, you know, that kind of thing, where they incorporate as many of their classic, vintage, wonderful stuff as possible into the software world, which seems to be what they're trying to stuff into these boxes.
I think that's...
Sorry.
Go.
No, I was just going to say, when you look at something like the System 1 and you play it, you realise it's an instrument built at a price, and, you know, there's a lot on it. It's a bit plasticky. I think there's definitely room for them to do a premium
System 2, yeah.
A System 2 with proper metal chassis and, you know, proper power supply and all that stuff, with a good complement of that kind of aesthetic with the knobs and stuff. And I think if, like Rich said, if they get that right and actually can, instead of the synth, you know, the Jupiter fiasco, they can actually make an instrument that really does have that sonic charm of the original things. I think people will be prepared to pay a decent price for it, just as much as they'd be prepared to pay for a decent rompler.
Yeah. I personally think that's where it's going, because the models so far, the SH2 and the SH101, have been pretty damn good. So they've obviously got a bit of mojo going on. Whoever it is that's developing and, you know, making those models happen is doing a good job.
Why? What is it that makes them think that they need to write proprietary drivers for all of their USB ports? Because why is it that I see that list of things coming up and it says we no longer write drivers for this? We know now that Apple are going to release a new operating system every year, and they keep playing around with the code underneath that. So my Line 6 stuff all died when I upgraded to Yosemite, and I had to download a new driver. Okay, so Line 6 are providing the new driver, and there it is. But so that's great, and they'll probably continue to do that for years for that hardware. But why can't you just make it class compliant, so that as those things move on, if there is a class compliant standard that's been written and it's class compliant, then you don't need to worry about supporting it anymore, do you?
I would totally agree with that, and I don't know why that is. Yeah. That's
It comes to something when you've got, for example, we used Roland's AIRA controllers live with Howard. They're brilliant because they've got the ivory touch keyboard from the V piano, and they're in a really great slimline, pretty lightweight form factor. But you have to have a driver for a weighted action piano keyboard.
I know, it's crazy.
So that would be class compliant. Anyway,
that does seem a bit.
Have you got and if you put it on, if you ran that on Yosemite, would you have a driver for it? The answer is probably no, right?
I don't know. I couldn't comment.
Who knows?
I mean, I had a V-Synth and when I upgraded from Snow Leopard to the next, I think when I put it on Snow Leopard, it locked the whole machine up because they stopped supporting that after about 5 or 6 years. And and then you have to go back to MIDI cables because
I think the difficulty is, and it's not just Roland. I mean, you know, you got to bear in mind that a lot of this stuff is very niche, and to keep a team keeping all of that stuff updated, and
Yeah.
I can't imagine
so
how it
here's-
makes sense, but so
I
that
bought a MIDI Sport 2x2, a little green box thing, and I can't remember who's the company that make that.
it was MIDI Man before M Audio.
Yeah, MIDI Sport 2x2. So I bought that probably in about 1995, and I downloaded the drivers and ran it on OS 9. And when OS X came out, they wrote new drivers for it. And each time a new instance of the Apple operating system comes out, or a new version of Windows, they write new drivers for it. So if I can pull that out of the drawer that it's in if I need to use it, plug it into my computer, go on the MIDI Man website, download the drivers, and it works. How can they do it? Then Roland appear to be a bigger company than that with far more resources, and they can't do it? I mean, come on.
Far more products, isn't it? Masses of products to try and keep up to date like that.
I think so. Anyway, but it could be a very interesting development. So I think maybe we should move on to this next topic, which is really quite interesting, which is there's a big debate on Synthtopia. You see the Real Orchestra by Virtual Instruments mock-up. Well, he publicised this. It's basically on audiocookbook.org. It's a chap called Tom Player who's been doing a load of demos for various film projects he's been working on, and he's created a virtual instrument version, then gone in and created an orchestral version, hired players and done it, and just done A/B comparisons. And it's been very interesting. I mean, it wins every time, but some of them are quite hard to really, really tell. But one of these was interesting. This is the sound of called Takedown, action trailer piece. So this is the synth version. This is the one with the brass, whereas absolutely that was absolutely awesome. But the thing that kind of got me going really was about this whole sort of notion of replacement of the string players or brass players, because I mean obviously it's an expensive process, and ultimately who is it who's making that judgment call? I mean, because when it comes down to obviously finance, people are going to want to get things for the cheapest possible price. I mean, Rich, you've worked on various soundtracks and presumably had to orchestrate things in with virtual orchestras or whatever to get the demos going, or for whatever reason, do they always get replaced? Or I mean, are there ever times when the orchestra just doesn't have the same right vibe? I mean, I'm just curious to sort of see whether or not there is always a night and day kind of argument for this.
No, there is not. No, there is not always a night and day argument for this. And sit right back and you'll hear a tale. In 1988, when we did Coming to America, which has now become a much beloved movie, at least over here.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, people love that movie. Almost the entire score was temped out in Synclavier and Kurzweil modules by me before we got there, or shortly, or for the first 2 weeks we spent at the Paramount studio in Hollywood. And the third week, the live orchestra came in and basically performed to our tracks with clicks and everything coming off the Synclavier. And what appears in the movie is a hybrid of those two things. At certain points, it is only orchestra. At certain points, it is only the electronics. And at other times, it's a carefully blended combination of the two. And there are a lot of reasons for that. It's kind of hard to get full orchestras to groove in any discernible way. So when you need to get them to play tightly and in rhythm, and you have more than a certain number of people playing at a time, the weight of the sound almost prevents the proper groove element from getting in there. And so in order to mitigate that to some degree, sometimes it was desirable to use a combination of the live and the electronic, because the electronic kind of pulls it a little closer to the beat, but you still get the breathing from the live thing.
That's an interesting thought. I hadn't really thought about that, but because generally speaking, you go for the breadth of the real strings. It's very good for legato. I know, Robbie, you've done various soundtracks. Have you ever taken those and then been asked, okay, what can we have an orchestra destination for this?
The scores that I've done so far have not had any real orchestra on them, but we've had a few elements that we may have added to. I think it's an interesting thing, isn't it? Because you think of someone like Hans Zimmer, he kind of pioneered the let's do a whole score, and we'll make a big thing about the fact that this is an orchestral score without an orchestra. And for certain composers like him, he's kind of made an art form, hasn't he, about this of almost having a score that's like a super orchestra in a way, because it's like hundreds of groupings of instruments, which in the real world, if you had as an orchestra, is totally unfeasible. So some people make it their thing to have this kind of massive, humongous kind of hybrid, we're going to have 100 violin ones and 100, for that big sound. I mean, the kind of scoring I do, I use some orchestral elements, but I don't profess to be an orchestral arranger. So I like to think that I can add elements of orchestral sound and flair to predominantly an electronic score. So I like the two worlds colliding, and I think more and more that's what happens anyway.
Do you think it's a question of just being able to identify what needs to be replaced with something real to give it that extra dimension?
Generally, solo instruments are never going to be great as samples. I mean, what I always find interesting is a lot of them make really good sample libraries. You go and listen to the demos when they release their libraries, and they're phenomenal. And you think these libraries are absolutely phenomenal. And then you hear people who've done stuff with them, and you think, that's not done with the same library, is it? Because so much to do with those libraries are to do with how you can learn to really understand how to articulate them and use all that side of it. And I think a really good library is only a really good tool in the hands of somebody who really understands how to use it.
Here.
That's I mean, that's the thing. That's the thing. Otherwise, it's just a bunch of samples that just sound like general MIDI to people who don't truly understand how to get the best from it. And I think that's the thing. And you some people are real masters at harnessing that stuff.
And I think also when you're recording the real thing, you really need the whole package. You can't just kind of get a string player into your studio and kind of go, right, make this sound like, because it just doesn't, playing to a foam wall does not sound the same as having the guy who knows the room in the place that makes that the strings sound really good in and all of that stuff. It really is, it's that. I guess that's why it becomes a more expensive procedure, because you need to really do it in the right place and do the right thing. I'm guessing, Rich, you probably found that as well. It's not just a question of bringing a brass player in; it's a question of getting the whole part of it right.
Yes, of course, and whatever, as they say, whatever it takes.
Yeah, absolutely. I know, Mark. I don't know. Have you, because you worked on a few kind of quite big albums? I mean, has there been a point where you've handed over to the kind of to the orchestral recordist to enhance what you've already done in just purely electronically or in the studio?
Yes, we've used various different string arrangers on things. Guy Farley is one of the people, and he's just amazing because I was talking to someone about him today, because they said I went for a massage today, and the guy that massaged me was saying, why don't you do more film music? And I was saying, well, basically because I'm not really a musician, I'm a programmer. Guy Farley has got, he'll stick 10 fingers on this big master keyboard and then kind of play intricate things on it, and he makes the whole thing come to life simply by playing. Actually, Rich is another guy who can do this. And you want to change something, you just basically change what you're playing or what you think about what you're playing and change a couple of elements, and it totally changes sound. For me, I need to sit down and score the whole thing by drawing lines with a pen in Ableton and going like, oh, I think that might be what strings do.
Right.
And then afterwards, if I want to change it, I've got to really think about, which of the notes to move around to make it change. So what takes somebody that knows how to do it by playing it 5 minutes takes me 2 or 3 hours. So
Yeah.
I just end up in the world where I go, oh, that is quite a nice sound. It's slightly better than general MIDI. I'm going to have like a string pad happen here, and then no articulation. I quite often play things from the ASCII keyboard on my laptop because it doesn't make that much difference to me whether I've got velocity sensitivity or not, because I'm not a keyboard player and I don't know what to do with it. If I try doing it on the guitar's all over the place and never triggers anything off quite the same anyway. So I tend to fix the velocity on the guitar and then kind of, so, you know, there's no articulation in anything that I do. It needs to go to someone like Guy Farley, or there's another guy called Richard Niles who's really good as well, actually, who used to do some of the Duran stuff.
Yeah, and there was that whole
when you see somebody that knows, when somebody knows what they're doing with computers, who's played it in and then just says, "Oh, I just need to move that note," and then the whole thing comes to life, and you're like, "Wow!"
Yeah, I guess that's about knowing how an orchestra.
And then Guy insists on giving it to a real orchestra. He says you can't do orchestras properly unless you give it to a real orchestra. So he'll score it out, play it out, then he'll print out the score from Logic, and then he'll write it all out again, and then he'll hand it to all the musicians, and then he stands and conducts. And then that's where I go green with envy, because I'd love to get that dynamic and be their guy with the little stick that went, "You're all going to play louder now."
Yeah,
like that. It's awesome. Like a bloody, you know, it's like a bomb going off when an orchestra goes up in volume, isn't it? It's the same dynamic as an explosion almost.
Interesting.
It's so exciting.
I know. So, Rich, in the chat room, you were mentioning about Session Strings Pro, the NI contact library.
For a separate, well, the specific issue I mentioned it in regarding was small sections. Pretty much everybody who wants to sell you string libraries records something that sounds huge because they think that you want to score a major movie with it. And the stuff tends to have very fuzzy attacks and very, very long, lush decays to it. And it tends to be a whole big bunch of guys playing. And for the kind of strings we use for like chic sort of strings, the stuff has to have really, really fast attacks, be pretty close, and not so many people playing, not with that much weight to it. And so for years, I struggled trying to recreate anything even close to adequate for chic type string sounds. And when Session Strings first appeared, and now Session Strings Pro, it was like a revelation to me, because you could do pretty much all the things I needed to do for that kind of string performances in that software, which runs in Native Instruments Contact.
I use the LA Scoring Strings, the Audio Bro ones, and the Sordinos. They're the ones I use with my main strings. But a little known fact, there's a great little library that's part of Nexus. You know, the Nexus sample player by REFX. They do this whole Hollywood library that they introduced about a year ago. It's not lots of massive samples in terms of size and lots of articulations, but in a mix, they've got lots of, exactly like Richard said, stuff that really works in a mix if you're adding them to pop productions and stuff. And I might, you know, those big orchestra ones, quite often they just do not work in things outside of that world, because they're all sloppy and tuning's weird and all that kind of thing.
That's interesting. There is one other. I don't know if you remember a company called Audio Impressions. A guy called Chris Stone. He made something called Divisi Strings, which I remember seeing at NAMM a few times. And it was, when you hear him play, he is a really interesting fellow. And he created it. I mean, it was incredible. It was like $5,000, but it came with its own computer, and it had all this really clever rules and panning, and I'm hearing him play that just really kind of blew my mind. But that was very much a lot. But you could work with larger or smaller arrangements. That was pretty.
You would need to understand how it worked, though.
Yes,
I mean, I can take an electric guitar and I can program fairly convincing sounding guitars, because I know when I'm playing certain strings together. You could never do that, because you can't play this string and that note at the same time. So you just stop the notes, and then it all starts to sound more. If you stop the notes in the right places, it starts to sound more believable, and you leave the notes that would naturally ring on a guitar in place. Then it starts to sound like, oh, hang on, this sounds like a guitar, but that's because I know how the chords work on a guitar and how the guitar works and how
it's that knowledge, isn't it, that you just can't.
Same with a violin. I don't know what if I really thought about it, I probably do, but I wouldn't instinctively know which notes to stop on a violin to make it transition from one thing to the next. So it never sounds believable if I'm doing violins. It just sounds like somebody playing chords on a piano with a string sound.
Yes. Interesting stuff. Well,
but that works in some kinds of music, doesn't it? Even and
it's a sound, isn't it?
synth strings work in some kind of music, and it's a sound. But orchestral, it's way over my head. Which it wasn't.
Interesting stuff, but I think that basically the bottom line is get some knowledge and learn how it works is probably the best way to do it. That's really, you can't be beaten. That's why string arrangers, really do decent ones who know how to work in recording. Really,
I just want to say one more thing about Richard Niles. Richard Niles is a string arranger. That is his job, and he has some crappy old Akai library, which isn't that interesting. And a couple of Akai samplers, or when I worked with him, he did. And if I played the things, I'd be going, "Are you really going to use this?" And he'd be like, "Yeah." And then he'd arrange and draw in all the lines and decide where he was going to play, and then draw in and change things. And he'd totally bring those crappy sounds to life because he made it sound like an orchestra, because he understood how an orchestra worked and why it worked like that. And that is a revelation. When you hear somebody who can take a really poor sound set and make it sound like a really, big, like professional, powerful thing, then that's when you realize that it's the understanding that's what you need, and not to just go out and buy another library, because it's the knowledge that not the...
Absolutely, and I concur. We're getting towards 5:30. I know we had a bit of a late start, but I have to get off. I've got a bit of Christmas shopping to do, and this is the last show beforehand, unless we could squeeze one in next Tuesday. I'm not sure about that yet, but let's assume not. For the time being, we might pull it together, but I want to say thank you very much to everybody for listening, and also thank you sort of for the year, really, because we won't be back until January, and I want to say thank you to all for listening and supporting the show, the chat room. Lots and lots of people in the chat room today. Also, thank you very much to Gaz Williams for doing that fabulous live performance, and hopefully you'll enjoy that on YouTube later when I post it. So I will say goodbye to all of our guests and wish you all a very Merry Christmas. To you, Rich, I hope you have a restful and kind of quiet family time with a bit of rock and roll thrown in as well when you need it.
Thank you. You too. And happy holidays. Merry Christmas to everybody. And let's look forward to some peace in 2015.
Absolutely. Here. And also to you, Robbie. I know you're not going off to Canada now. Maybe next year, early next year now, rather than Christmas. So you've got a bit of downtime, possibly, eh?
Yeah, finish off all the loose ends that have been hanging around, which is good. So, and have a bit of time off. Excellent.
Well, thank you so much for being on the panel so regularly. Really do appreciate you all, actually, for coming in and speaking. Fun. So, yes, happy Christmas to you and all of yours. And also, Mark Tinley, thank you also for joining us. Looking great in your elf hat. Looking good there.
I think that's an ear, isn't it? I've got an ear on my forehead.
Why not? It's like some kind of strange sect.
Like a third eye.
A third ear. Yeah, I like the sound of that. Imagine the stereo systems you could create if we all had 3 ears.
I've got an idea for that, actually, with binaural heads, but that's another story, and I've been meaning to do it for a couple of years. I will get around to it. Yes, I like it that Americans say Happy Holidays. That makes so much more sense to me than Merry Christmas. So I'm going to say Happy Holidays.
Thank you.
And thank you for having me. And Happy Holidays to everyone in the chat room as well. And everyone who listens and everyone else. All
Excellent. Of it. Thank you very much. There's the chat room there. Thank you all in the chat room. Thank you for your contributions, your topics, and all of those things. We really do appreciate it. And I want to say, obviously, if you want to stay involved, I mean, there is this a possibility that you could win that creative pack from Isotope by downloading the theme tune, Animation by Stephen Blacker, stephenblacker.com. And creating your own score to it. You can submit, and the winner will win the Creative Studio, and also will be the sound bed to this. Oh no, it's not that. It's this one, isn't it? It's this very animation here. If I can press it enough times, it comes in. My system it's going to go slow. There we are. Come on, play. Oh, what the hell? Let's forget about it. I'll come back here and we'll come back to it later. But also, I want to say thank you very much to Isotope for their continued sponsorship of the show. Been really much appreciated having them. And remember, if you want to enter the competition for this week, I guess we'll be announcing it in a couple of weeks' time. All you got to do is tweet a world of sound to @SonicNick and @Isotope Inc. and you could win Iris 2. And the Isotope Fairy, although she will no doubt be having a Christmas break herself, will bestow it upon you next time. So that's it for this week and this year. No show next week, no show the week after. We'll be back the week after that. Thanks, everybody, once again, and we'll see you next time.